All right. As you know, we're getting more information and developing news with regard to what we've been reporting in the past hour, and that is we are getting word for the first time from a radical Islamist website, the one you're seeing right here, that Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Gulf, also known as AQAP, an offshoot of Al-Qaeda, is claiming responsibility for that attempted bombing of a U.S. airliner. We are digging deeper into the story, as we have since Christmas Day when it first happened. I'm going to go live to Dubai now. Mohammed Jamjoon standing by. Mohammed, we've been talking a lot about the connection to Yemen all morning and all this afternoon as we're learning more about this alleged bomber, where he got his training, who he is, with whom he's tied. And as you probably heard there from Larry Johnson, former deputy director for the Office of Counterterrorism, he said, bottom line, these lists that we have continue to fail us, that our priorities have just not been put into the right place. Can you give us the perspective now from Yemen as this news is starting to break and it's been targeted, a lot of this information targeted toward Yemen?
Well, Kira, you know, Yemen's government hasn't officially responded to this latest claim. But everybody that I've been speaking with, analysts, experts, they're not surprised by this. I mean, people have thought since the near attack happened that it was going to be out of Yemen. Yemen is a very dangerous country. Yemen is beset by a lot of different problems. And the reason it's become so problematic for the U.S., the Yemen government right now is battling three different battles. They're battling a separatist movement in the south of the country. They're battling a rebellion by Shiite rebels in the north of the country. That violence is spilling over into Saudi Arabia, which is making everybody very nervous because that's America's key ally in the region and the biggest oil exporter in the world. And then you've got this battle against a very resurgent Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda from Saudi Arabia and Al-Qaeda from Yemen merged in the past year. They're now Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. They're stronger, they're resilient, they have vowed to carry out attacks, and they've done so. In last August, they almost assassinated Saudi Arabia's anti-terror chief. When that happened, that sent shockwaves through D.C., through Saudi Arabia. People realized there's a lot more going on with Al-Qaeda in Yemen than even we had realized. We really got to get this under control. Since then, you've seen high-level U.S. delegations go to Yemen to try to see what they could do. You've seen the U.S. saying that they're providing the Yemenis with intel, with money. The U.S. has not yet declared that they've actually been out front with these attacks against Al-Qaeda, but a lot of people think they are. And so now, basically, the question is, what more can the U.S. do in order to help Yemen combat Al-Qaeda? Because the analysts that I speak with say in Yemen right now, it's not just that it's a failing state, it's a failed state, and that's causing a lot of concern. Kira?
And we're learning more about AQAP and its leader, Mohammed Nasser al-Wuhashi, who apparently comes from a wealthy family, once served as bin Laden's personal secretary, we're told, and is believed to have very strong contacts with the head of Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden. Also, as you mentioned, his deputy, Saeed al-Sahiri, a Saudi national and former detainee at Guantanamo Bay, apparently all working together within this organization, possibly tied to this attempted bomber with whom we've been talking about, Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalib. Also something else, Mohammed, another tie that we've seen to this is with the radical Yemeni American cleric that was linked to the gunman that was charged with killing 13 people at Fort Hood. So, you know, at what point do you think we will hear from Yemeni officials? Because so many links are being tied to Yemen, and this is going to be on the forefront of the president's speech when he makes comments out of Hawaii this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely, Kira. I mean, people are wondering just that. As you mentioned, the radical cleric, Anwar al-Awlaki. I mean, people thought last week that he might have been killed in one of those airstrikes. The Yemeni government came out and said that in one of those airstrikes against militants, against Al-Qaeda in Yemen, that he had been at one of the sites that had been bombed and possibly he had been killed. Then just a couple of days after that, other sources were saying, no, he was alive and well. And just a day before those attacks, he was being interviewed by certain media outlets. A lot of questions about this. How can these people continue to get away with this? What more can the U.S. do in order to help the Yemeni government? And when I speak to Yemeni analysts, when I speak to Yemeni experts, they say, you know, the situation just couldn't be more dire, because even though there is this increased scrutiny on Yemen and this increased international and regional pressure, look, it's still a very, very poor country, still a very dangerous country. It's a hub for militants from not just the region, from Afghanistan, from Pakistan. They get training there. They're supplied with weapons. And the borders are very porous. It's very easy to get in and out of Yemen. And so it seems to be like this perfect storm of militancy where they can really export that and they can really launch these kind of terror attacks. And everybody I'm speaking with is saying they just don't know what the U.S. is going to be able to do with the Yemeni government to combat this effectively at this point. Kira?
Mohammed Jamjoon out of Dubai. Mohammed, thanks so much. And, you know, Mohammed mentioned these U.S. Strikes. Let's bring in Barbara Starr from the Pentagon. Barbara, as we're learning more from this radical Islamic website, it's saying that this attempted bombing on this U.S. airliner was in retaliation for U.S. strikes on Yemeni soil. And that's being tied to those U.S. cruise missiles fired at al-Qaeda training bases in Yemen just 8 days before Christmas on December 17th. What are those within the Pentagon telling you with regard to action on behalf of the U.S. trying to take out these al-Qaeda operatives and al-Qaeda and offshoots of al-Qaeda attempting to fire back?
Well, Kira, I was just looking at this statement as we're talking, and the al-Qaeda statement talks about bombardment with the use of bombs and cruise missiles that were launched from American ships in the Gulf of Aden. Now, the U.S. government, let's be very clear, has never acknowledged that it was involved in any of these airstrikes, that any U.S. warplanes, bombs, or cruise missiles were used. There has been a very quiet acknowledgement that the U.S. provided intelligence, but not that U.S. armaments were used. The claim of cruise missiles is very interesting. The U.S. is not saying that, and could it have really been cruise missiles off U.S. Navy warships? It's worth remembering that cruise missiles have a very long flight time. They fly perhaps for hours before they get to their target, which is located by GPS, those satellite coordinates. They go against very specific fixed targets. But what are the al-Qaeda targets in Yemen? These are people, fighters, commanders, training camps, people that move and come and go very quickly. A missile in the air for several hours would be a very unusual choice to go against an al-Qaeda target in Yemen, because those fighters, those people can very quickly move down the road, leave a site, and you could accidentally really hit a large number of civilians. So this claim of cruise missiles is perhaps very interesting. We don't know the answer, but many of the sources we have talked to have raised some speculation about exactly what kind of weapons were used, where the U.S. participated, and where Yemeni military forces might have participated. They themselves have a very limited capability. By all accounts, what is underpinning all of this right now is a very substantial, very stepped up U.S. intelligence, U.S. military intelligence effort to help the Yemenis target and go after al-Qaeda in their country, Kara.
Barbara Starr at the Pentagon. Barbara, thanks so much. And if you're just tuning in, you're watching breaking news here on CNN. Al-Qaeda claiming responsibility for that attempted bombing of a U.S. airliner on Christmas Day. Our breaking news coverage continues after a quick break.